Good afternoon. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today. My name is CJ. I am a staff writer with Gaye Magazine. Today we've got Kenya Hutton here from the Center for Black Equity, who is going to chat with us about all things Pride and all the cool things that he's doing with the organization that he is leading the charge for. So thank you so much, Kenya. Welcome. Appreciate you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me. This is going to be exciting.
Yeah, so I definitely want to dig into some of the work that you do with Center for Black Equity. You guys are obviously leading a charge in the climate where the LGBT community is somewhat under attack right now. I won't even say somewhat; it's under attack. And basically, you are leading the charge for an organization who is keeping us at the forefront of awareness and just fighting for equity and equality, despite all that's going on. And so we'd love to know more about the work that you do, as well as how it kind of ties all into DC Black Pride.
Absolutely. All right. So first, I want to talk about the history of the Center for Black Equity. Right. This is its 26th year. Right. So we've been around since 1999. It was initially founded as the International Federation of Black Prides, where it brought together Black Prides that was popping up around the country. First, actually, as the Federation of Black Prides, and they founded about a pride in Suriname, and then they changed them to International Federation of Black Prides. This is coming right after the start of DC Black Pride, being the first official Black Pride registered in the books as a celebration. DC Black Pride came out of a celebration that was happening called the Children's Hour every Memorial Weekend at a place called the Clubhouse that got together to raise funds for the community that's being impacted by HIV. So between 1991 to 1999, it operated solely. And then in 1999, our founder, Earl Folks Jr., founded what was then, like I said, called the International Federation of Black Prides. At that time, it brought together about 7 or 9 Black Prides to really create a resource and space for Black Prides to be successful and continue creating safe space in our community. And around 2012, the board realized that we were doing a lot more work than just organizing prides. It really was doing a lot of work in the activism space, in advocacy, and really fighting for equity and rights for our community. So the board decided to change the name to the Center for Black Equity around then, which is a funny story. That's when I first got connected with the Center for Black Equity as a bartender for that event. So that's when my first work with the organization was then up until now. And they changed it into the Center for Black Equity. And here we are a number of years later, fully operating under, fighting for equity for Black and brown queer folks globally. We represent 54 Black Prides within the United States. We have a dozen overseas. Operating in 3 main pillars: health equity, social equity, and financial equity for Black and brown queer folk, wherever you are.
Love that. That's really amazing work. I love that you've literally seen it kind of transform over time. You've been here since almost the beginning. And so it's really cool to really witness your evolution with the organization and with the programs. I'm just curious to know, too, from your perspective, given that you've been working with Center for Black Equity and Pride for numerous of years, what makes this Pride a little bit different in comparison to previous ones?
Well, this Pride season, right, is different because of the current political climate. As I said before, the Center for Black Equity and Pride have been around for years, right, for decades. However, with the orchestrated attacks on the LGBTQ community, this year is even more important and even more impactful for us to do a number of things. Both show up and show our presence, show that we're not going to go into the closet. We're not going to be pushed away. We're not going to be pushed to the sides. We're not going to continue to be pushed to the margins, especially the Black queer community. But also, this is a time for us to really connect and build our community, right? And remember that we have community within each other. Regardless of where you are in the country, in the world, there's something about being connected to other Black and brown queer folk that even if you're not from DC, when you come to DC, you're going to walk away with community, even if you live in a town where you don't have a Black queer community there. When you come, if you come to DC Black Pride, for instance, you're going to walk away with a new auntie, a new uncle, a new brother, a new sister that you're going to walk away with. And you're also going to have the opportunity to come across other people that are going to be going through or have gone through some of the experiences that you might be going through yourself, in times when the world is trying to make us feel isolated. Coming to Black Pride celebrations, especially DC Black Pride being the longest running Black Pride in the world, this is a space for you to be able to come and find that community that you may not know that you even have.
Yeah, I love that. I think that there's power in numbers, obviously, and just the community aspect of being able to connect with those that are like minded, going through some of those things, like you mentioned, some of similar experiences, things like that. It just makes the human experience so much more better.
I always talk about, when I was growing up, right, as a teenager, I thought I was the only one, right? I thought I was the only Caribbean queer person in New York City. And
Hmm.
that, right? That's where I'm from. Um, and then come lo and behold, I made my way to the village and found a whole community out there. And I think it's important for folks to be able to connect with each other,
Yeah.
for our survival, right? For our
Yeah.
mental health. It's so important that we do that and we maintain these safe spaces for our community.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it makes me think about an event that I saw that you guys are putting on this year. I think it's actually a showing of a film. It's called Is DC Black Pride Needed or something of this
Yeah,
sort.
do we still need Black Pride?
And this kind of like reminds me of that particular question, because there's so many nuances that are underneath the umbrella of obviously being Black. And you just talked about your Caribbean heritage and things like that. What do you think about just with that question in itself? Is it needed? Like, give me your take on that.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much of the film, but especially
Absolutely.
right now, all right, because it is a film screening that'll happen, and then they're gonna have a panel discussion with some of the folks that was from the film. But the reason why we need Black Pride is, like I said, it is to showcase community, and especially when you consider, you know, how society pins us against each other,
Yeah.
right? Pins us against mainstream prize. And then, when it comes to funding, especially now at a time when funding is limited,
Mhm.
and being restricted rather, um, it's important that we be able to show up for our community, because many times in the mainstream spaces, we're not represented. And if we are, we're not represented authentically, right? We're almost put in a situation where we have to code switch and blend in with everyone else instead of being able to experience your blackness and your queerness at the same time,
Yeah.
right? Many of us live, all of us live at the intersections of race, sexism, racism, homophobia, etc. Right? So
Mhm.
when you come to Black Pride, that's not a thing. You can be Black and queer and not have to worry about how anyone else is judging you. You can just be your whole person in that space. And that's why it's important for us to still maintain Black Prides. It is part of our history. Black Pride started as a way for us to take care of each other and community. And today, as we're facing the current political climate, political and social climate, right? Because the social climate is also falling behind the political climate. It's even so much more important for us to maintain this space. And I always try to remind folks is that Black Pride is a safe space for Black queer folks, for Black queer young folks, for Black queer older folks, and for that person that has never been to a Pride before. Our Black Pride leaders are creating safe spaces for those communities around the country and actually around the world.
Yeah, I actually 100% in line with you on that. Like, no notes at all, as they say. I totally agree. And just speaking of the safety aspect, I kind of want to piggyback off of that a little bit. I think one of the major themes this year is just ensuring that everyone feels safe and connected as they kind of maneuver through Pride. And would love if you could speak on some of the things. Like I saw that there are shuttles being created and around the area for folks to take advantage of. But just would love to hear more about like how folks are basically going to be in this space and you guys are creating a safe space. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So, unlike other Pride celebrations, Black Prides have always operated out of a sense of safety and space, right? We've always had to organize and have our celebrations under the auspice of where can we do this safely, right?
Hmm.
We've never had the privilege of being able and being comfortable wholeheartedly to be queer on the streets. And especially, those of us from communities, from smaller communities, have always had that, right? And that's the kind of mindset we're taking for this year's DC Black Pride. As we are paying attention to the shift in the environment, socially and politically, we're taking extra steps to make sure and ensure our safety. For DC Black Pride, one of the things, like you mentioned, we're having shuttles that will take everybody around to all the clubs from the host hotel, all the official DC Black Pride events for both men and women. So that you don't have to ride the trains, walk on the street, intoxicated, right? We don't want to put any of our people in a situation where they'll be targeted or unfairly harassed. So we're putting these things together. So if you go out for a night and you had a couple, 2, 3 drinks, you don't have to worry about waiting for an Uber or finding an Uber or having to deal with an Uber driver that may not want to pick you up, right? You'll have a shuttle bus that is dedicated to pick you up, right, from this spot. It's going to circle around the city and drop you off and pick you back up and bring you back and drop you back safely at the host hotel. So you don't have to be outside, right? You don't have to worry about anyone in the street that may want to harass you. You don't have to worry about authorities bother you. You have to worry about driving intoxicated in the streets. These are all things why we're putting it together, as well as we have a security team for DC Black Pride that is led by Black queer people, right, that have volunteered with us for years, always have volunteered with us, always ensured our security, work very closely with hotel security and our local MPD to make sure that our space have always been safe and protected. And when things arise, they're there to handle it right away. But and of course, this year we've ramped it up a bit for all of our spaces, not just during DC Black Pride, but all of our other Black queer events that we have throughout the entire World Pride umbrella. They're going to be there with us in mind, knowing how to work with us, understand the nuances of the Black queer community, and know how to de-escalate situations the way we know how, right? Not someone from our outside of our community, but from within our community that is going to be able to be that, not only address situations when they arise, but also be an intercessor if MPD has to come around, right? They'll be there to de-escalate situations so that if the police does arrive, it doesn't go in a negative direction.
I love that. It's so intentional, and just the community support from all of the people who are in law enforcement that are allies of the movement. I really love to see the intentionality behind that. And one thing that came to my mind too, as you were talking about the shuttles, is again, it goes back to that community aspect. If I'm like trying to get around from club to club, I can meet a new person that's on the shuttle, and I can connect with someone who might have a similar experience with me, or as me, or as a friend or a family member. And I think it's just an incredible way to like really bridge gaps that you guys are doing. So I really love it. Y'all are doing the Lord's work. Yeah, so I think one thing earlier that you were mentioning in the political climate that we're in, obviously funding is being taken away. The DEI agenda is being scrapped left and right. And you consider companies like Booz Allen, Hamilton, Comcast, who've retracted funding for World Pride. Has DC World Pride, or DC Pride, excuse me, been affected by any of these changes? And are you surprised by the shift in support if that has been the case?
100%. If mainstream pride is going to be defunded, that Black pride is going to be defunded times 2,
Yeah.
right? So we definitely have felt the impact, but we have been lucky and blessed to have the support of major companies such as like Vive Healthcare that has stepped up early, right? In the onslaught of things being cut, they were one of the first ones to come out and say we're going to support. Gilead Sciences, DC Health, Arena Stage. A lot of and those are some of Vive and Gilead are some of our international partners that have come in, and then we have a lot of local spaces that have come in and increased their support to help fill the gap.
Mm-hmm.
As these things are happening. So, and as well as, let me not forget community, right? Because we also did a campaign where we said, if you can donate $1, donate $1 and it'll go towards DC Black Pride programming. And we have received so much support, right? We could always use more support, but we have received so much support from community, donating $1 and more, right? That is really helping us to do things like pay for the shuttle bus, right? Do things like pay for extra security. These are the things that, so community has really stepped up to really help fill in the gap. And there are some organizations that have stepped up, and those that have not supported us, or pulled back the support, that have historically supported us.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not surprised. I'm what's the word I want to say? I'm shocked but not surprised,
Okay.
right? I understand. Folks are protecting their bottom line. There's a lot of threats that if they do support celebrations in spaces like Black Pride, that they're gonna be under attack from the government. They're gonna lose contracts, so they're thinking of their bottom line. But it also highlights those that have stood 10 toes down with us before DEI, and supporting pride events was the cool thing to do. They have done it throughout it, and now when the times are tough, right, and we really need to support, they are still supporting us now, which says so much
Yeah.
to me, that when it's not the cool thing to do, you still are out here supporting us in some way. And even and there's even some folks I say, if you can't support us financially, how else can you support us? And we've just had discussions about other ways you can support us, that wouldn't affect your funding as an organization that has also been restricted.
Yeah.
So it's just very telling. We'll see at the end of the Pride season, those that have stood with us, and those that have stood with us. You saw what happened to Target, right? We're telling a lot of people, support
Mhm.
those that support us. Always been my thing in my over 2 decades of this work. Support those that support us, and even more so now, I'm encouraging folks, when you come out to these Pride celebrations, look at who's sponsoring, right? Look at who has lent a dollar, lent a resource, lent something to let that Pride celebration, whether it's DC Black Pride, Atlanta, Selma, wherever. Look at who's supporting those spaces, and support those organizations, because they're the ones that are having our backs and your back when the times are tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Very powerful thoughts there. I 100% agree with you. I think it's so telling of a space and an organization to continue to step out regardless of backlash and the support or whatever judgment might be casted. So I love the idea of just making sure that people who are attending take note of the people that are the organizations that are around that are supporting some of these parties and events and things like that, because these are the true heroes that are
Mm,
out here on the front lines trying to ensure that we have equal access to things just like
absolutely.
everyone else. I love that. um, I just want to move on a little bit. We were talking about safety, we're talking about the retraction of some of the funding that has been going on out here. Let's move over into like the events and things, like any particular events, marches, panels that you can speak to, that you're personally excited for, that people should be on the lookout for, that might be super impactful and life changing.
Yeah. So, for one, I always tell everyone, if you're going to be in DC early, some of our pre-Pride events like the DC Black Pride Unity Ball, the DC Black Pride Pageant, those are some things that we do before the Pride events really kick off. For local folks, really, so we can have our own space, folks that live here, to have some celebration before the onslaught of everyone comes into town. But also, our opening reception on Friday, May 23rd, it is a completely free concert that we put on. We bring in performers, both local and from out of state, queer and allied supporters. We have, headlining Nico is performing with us this year. Lolita Leopard, hosted by Anthony Oakes, Van Garson, Laura Kumar. We have guest appearances by Kerry Colby, T.S. Madison, Eva Marcel, are all showing up for us, right? And at a time, again, when it was so easy to just go back and not really, put your name in your face to our event, they're stepping up and saying, no, we're going to show up for you. So thankful. So of course, definitely the open reception. Again, it's free. We're going to have drink tickets. We're going to have food. And it's just a great opportunity for folks to come out. It's also where we're going to be doing the initial pass distributions. If you bought a party pass from a party promoter, you can come there to that event and pick up your party passes, as well as if you register and check in and attend that event, you
Mhm.
entered into the raffle where you can receive 2 tickets to the Beyonce Cowboy Carter tour, or 2 tickets to the Janelle Monáe Grace Jones concert. Just for showing up to a free event, you get entered into that raffle, right?
The girls love Beyonce. I'm
We
sure
love
they'll be in
Beyonce.
attendance.
All you have to do is go to the website, dcblackpride.org, and click the link,
Okay,
and register for the event, and then come show him. We're going to scan your ticket. Once that ticket is scanned, you get entered into raffle. It's literally that easy,
love
right?
that.
And then of course, everyone's going to go out to their events that night. I believe the big party for the men is Karma. And there's a number of events happening around the city. Um, and then the next day, starting 11 o'clock, we start having those workshops like you talked about earlier, right? Where we're going to have things, the film screenings like, do we still need Black Pride? What is your Black queer hair story is another one. Um, Embracing your divinity is another one. It's me, your skin, and your beard is another one. We have so many workshops that are focused, that are around as many different aspects of our community as possible. Everything from grooming to spirituality to living in intersections of affirming your trans queer child. Even for parents, we're having a special session this year for parents of queer and trans children for you to be able to show up and understand and know how to take care of yourself in
Mhm.
this time when there's so many negative things happening, how to take care of your mental health, right?
Yeah.
um we have so many workshops. I think we have like about 12 or 13 different workshops coming out that weekend. Then of course we have Rainbow Row, which is what we call, it's our expo of organizations and companies that are Black, queer led or allied, that really are focusing on supporting our community. Small businesses are going to be there, small Black queer businesses are going to be there. So it's happening if you come out and support our community, learn about resources, not just in DC, but that may be, where you're from. And that's free of charge. Just come walk through. You can buy stuff. You can learn, get some information, get resources. We have a health and wellness pavilion,
Yeah.
which this is the third year we're going to be doing the health and wellness pavilion, because I think a lot of times when we talk about health, especially in the pride space, it's always around HIV,
Mhm.
but we are so much more than HIV as a Black queer community, Black LGBTQ community. And there's so many other health disparities that affect us as Black people,
Yeah.
not just Black queer people, that sometimes fall on the radar and we don't find out till it's too late.
Mhm.
And what I do know from doing this for so long is that a lot of our members of our community, their first access to getting competent queer, competent gay healthcare service happens when they come to a pride event, right? So we have our health
Mhm.
and wellness pavilion where you can come in and get vaccines, you can get PrEP, you can get your blood pressure checked, you can get a massage, you get HIV tested. Last year we was giving away Mpox vaccines, COVID vaccines,
Wow.
gambit of everything, right? And also we also have a on the other wellness pieces, we offering yoga sessions, we're offering facials, massages, because sometimes you might need that as well, right? You might have all your internal healthcare stuff taken care of, but
Mhm.
sometimes it's going to getting a facial, getting a massage. You can walk out and feel so much better, right? That might be what you need. So we're combining all of that free of charge for everyone that entire week. You just got to walk in, go in, get it, and when you do that, you get entered into raffles. We have a
Wow.
ton of raffles, everything from bottles to party passes to signed books to a whole bunch of things we're doing, right? And then that evening we have our poetry slam, which is the Mary Bowman Poetry Slam,
Mhm.
um, which you're going to be able to see Black queer poets from around the country are going to come and share their poetry and compete for cash prizes. And we even have an open mic that's happening that night, right? Those are all the things happening just in the hotel. This is not including the parties, not including the
Yeah.
day parties, night parties. That's just stuff that I personally curated for that weekend. Then on Sunday we have an interfaith service. Monday we have the cookout hosted by our partner at Us Helping Us, People to Living. They host that every year. It's really just fun. Come out, eat, enjoy community,
Mhm.
right? Which is great. And for those that live in the DC area or will be here for the other Black Pride events, we have a Black Queer Film Festival, May 27th, 28th, and 29th. It is going to be hosted at Howard University. And we're showcasing all Black queer films. Made by us, about us, for us,
Right.
right? And we're bringing in films from around the world. We're having two premieres. James Earl Hardy's 30th edition of his book, his film B-Boy Blues, is going to be having a DC premiere, and Marissa Miller's film All the Broken Pieces is going to
Mhm.
be premiering, doing a DC premiere there that weekend as well. And then right after that, we're having the Community Conversation Summit, which is going to be on June 4th, 5th, and 6th. And it's really a space for those that don't have access to the World Pride Human Rights Conference. This is a space for you also for you to be able to come if you couldn't get off to go to the Human Rights Conference, you couldn't get funding to go to the Human Rights Conference. This is a space for you to come, and it's also going to be held at Howard University campus. Where you can still come and have some important conversations, really walk away with some tools and again community for what's going on in the world, right? It's really going to be focused on local issues, local, regional, and national issues. We're even going to have an international flair in there for folks to really get an understanding and hear for some folks that look like us that are really doing the fight overseas in the Caribbean, in parts of Africa, over in Europe, and really have that panel discussion. So those of us that live here can really see what's happening overseas and hopefully give us the energy and the push to know that if they're doing it over there in spaces where you can literally be thrown in jail or killed, we
Yeah.
can fight against the systems here in this country. That's I know I just gave a long list. You said one or two things, but everything.
No,
So
I love it. It's totally fine. I love it. I think what's one thing that sticks out to me is how multidimensional it is. When I think about Pride, especially like me, super old school, just going to parties, like I just think about that as it relates to it. But to hear that there are actual events that not only educate but also inform, that also put up the fight in like not only here in America, but to your point, in other spaces outside of America where people's experiences as LGBT folks are probably completely different. And so it's really awesome to hear that there is so much culture and community and inclusiveness that is being amplified into this space. And I really, really appreciate just how you guys are working so hard to, ensure that it's a robust event.
yeah, I think with it being World Pride, right? I think it's very easy for the Black queer experience, to get lost in the parties, in all the celebration and rainbows and everything that's happening.
Hmm.
It's very easy for our experiences, our stories to get lost in that. So it's very intentional with Center for Black Equity to create spaces for us.
Yeah.
This gay pride movement started with us, right? And as it's grown to a global movement, it's only right that we have spaces. Anybody can come. Let me be clear, right? It's not
Yeah.
only Black queer folks can come. Anybody can come, but we want to make space for us to be able to come in and not just enjoy, but also, like you said, walk away informed about what's going on and walk away with some tools to really be um, encouraged to continue the fight because we're going to need everybody to get through these next couple of years. We're going to need everybody arms and
Yeah.
arms. We need to make sure we arm our folks with the information, with the energy, with the resources so they can continue this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's powerful work. We need it more than ever right now.
Yeah.
And I think just with all of the different events that is underneath the umbrella of DC Black Pride, it's really helping to put up the fight. And so I really love to see it. Love it. Um, I just also want to know too, like kind of going back to the informing of like just community and making sure that we're advocating in spaces. What's something you would say? I know, let me back up. So Center for Black Equity supports not only DC Pride, but other prides throughout the United States and
The world.
overseas, the world. Okay, cool. So across the world. What what are conversations looking like to some of those other organizations who are getting ready to ramp up their celebrations in their respective cities? Are there any things that you might have to call out that, I don't know, given the political climate we're in, maybe, they're getting funding retracted? Any tips? I don't know, I hope you're catching my drift here.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah, so the conversation really is sustainability, right? And we've been talking about this since last year, right? Right after the election, I pulled together all the Black Prides that was available to have a post-election conversation to talk about sustainability. How are we going to pivot and adjust to make sure that we can continue having our safe spaces for
Yeah.
our community? And as we're moving, everyone is sharing what's happening locally, right? I know of a funder that gave a Black Pride some funding and then turn around and ask for it back, right? How do you navigate that space, right? As a organizer with a already limited budget, how do you navigate? How do you respond to that, right? How do you
Mhm.
prepare for doing work when you know that your work is targeted. And because of the nature of your work, you might be under political attack,
Yeah.
right? How do you navigate that space? How do we create regional support, which is some of the things we talk about? How do we create regional support to help each other through these times? And when we talk about overseas, the conversation has been, as we're leading up to the election, the fair our international family members have had, if the election went the way it went, right? What their
Hmm.
fear was, because what we do know is there's the old saying that when America, if America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. So they
Hmm.
knew what was going to happen from the last time, and
Hmm.
since things have happened, we have been seeing the ripple effects from election day, right? From election day, we've seen changes happen. We've seen things happening overseas. Things have been changing. Things have been going in the negative direction for our community members. So really walking them through and being a support system just to
Yeah.
hear them out and let them help them, you know, work through what is going through internationally, because of what's happening here. Um, yeah.
I love that. I think it's all in all support. Give them the heads up. I think it's also nice because I think about work often when it's like you might come across a scenario that you not might not have come across yet, right? And it's
Mhm.
always nice to have a mentor or someone there in the back seat that's like, "Hey, we came across this situation too.
Yeah.
This is how we approached it, and I think
Exactly.
maybe this could be of support to you in that particular sense."
And that's literally what the foundation of Center for Black Equity was, right? Is to be that support. So
Yeah.
if something's happening to you down there, you can call me up and say, down south, you can say, hey, Kenya, this bill just got passed. What can we do? And I can say, okay, this is what I've done here, but let me connect you to someone in Tennessee that just went through that. And,
Yeah.
help, because I can tell you from the national perspective, from the up north perspective, but especially our members out in the South,
Mhm.
I can give you my perspective and my advice, but let me connect you with someone else in that region that might be able to help you navigate some of the nuances of your area in
Mhm.
particular and help you be successful and come out positively on the other side.
Yeah, so important. I love that. Um, I also want to kind of dig into a little bit of like some of the things that people want, kind of switching gears to get a bit here. So obviously we're talking about support and just kind of like coming together with other different pride organizations. Going back to World Pride, what is DC Black Pride's involvement, if there's any, with the World Pride programs that might be going on within the city as well?
So DC Black Pride is listed as a marquee partner event,
Okay.
which is, I guess under the World Pride umbrella is just a segment that they're really designating, saying this is for all the Black queer folks.
Hmm.
But again, however, like I said, I don't believe that our experiences should be allocated to just one weekend. So
Yeah.
we're creating spaces for us all throughout, right? It initially was going to be started with the DC Black Pride, but then Trans Pride put out their date. They're going to be starting on the 17th.
Hmm.
But so then, right after that, it is DC Black Pride's celebration, and then it's going to continue going on, and we're going to continue having spaces throughout the World Pride celebration. So our involvement is really making sure that equitable, honest, intentional spaces are available for the Black queer community to experience, and for everyone else to come and learn about the Black queer community and learn how they can support us, learn
Hmm.
about some of our struggles, learn how they can support us, learn how they can uplift our community. That's what our involvement is within under the World Pride umbrella.
Love that. Okay. I really appreciate that spill. And just thinking about allyship, it brings me to another question that makes me feel like the people want to know. So there are different, obviously, people that will come in and support the DC Black Pride's events, like artists. I saw you said Aniko is going to be headlining.
Mhm.
You mentioned Eva Marcel. Um, there is a conversation right now online around Kaya being named as one of the event headliners. And people have been commenting and referencing past comments that she made, and she essentially was seen as homophobic. They were seen as homophobic. How do you respond to community concerns like this when curating talent for the Pride events?
Well, one thing I want everyone to be clear about, right, is that DC Black Pride Center for Black Equity partners with party promoters to create the full weekend experience. Right, we can't do everything ourselves, so we partner with these people. We don't have influence or direction of the people that they choose to bring on. Um, the space that I was able to curate myself, I brought
Mhm.
in a Nico as my headliner, right? So I really I don't have influence over those people, over those party promoters to bring in those other individuals. Um, but I do hope that as party promoters curating spaces for us during Black Pride weekend, they are actually listening to what community is saying and respond appropriately.
Mhm.
That's what I can say as far as that. We did not select Kaya. You know, but and there's also other conversations that I've heard about JT, right?
Mhm.
Being on the list as well. Sorry, I mean Young Miami. Again, that is not an event that we coordinated, that we organized. It's just one of our partners that chose to go that route.
Yeah.
And it's just like, just like when the World Pride Music Festival came out, and they had Elon Musk's ex-wife on the panel. That wasn't something that was organized by the World Pride Committee. That was just a partner that went that route. We have no influence over who these party promoters contract, but again, I just hope that the party promoters hear the community's voice and responds appropriately.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Can't do everything underneath one umbrella, so I totally understand that. And I think just from a sense of, again, I think we keep going back to this community conversation or a pillar, so to speak. I think one cool thing about DC Black Pride that I've noticed is y'all are listening to the people and what
Always.
the people want, and so it'll just be interesting to see the continued evolution just based on conversations like this.
I'll tell you, to that point about listening, when I first came on board to DC Black Pride, there was notion that DC Black Pride was only for gay men, right? We weren't creating spaces. And from feedback from community, I actively created spaces for the trans community. Like now we have a Black Trans Town Hall. Well, Black Trans is now it's moved from it started as a Black Trans Town Hall. Now it's turned into Black Trans Pride, DC Black Trans
Mm.
Pride, that happens on Saturday, May 24th, at the Host Hotel. Right, we create space for everybody and listen to people because the community said, "Hey." They didn't like this. They want
Yeah,
something different. And my job as a community leader, as an organization leader, is to listen to community and move accordingly and create space for those people, and make sure that I'm creating not just space but safe spaces with intention behind it. So we listen to people.
yeah.
As like Equity DC Black Pride, we listen to community and we respond accordingly.
I love that. And I guess that brings me to my last question. Like looking ahead, Kenya, like what's your long-term vision for DC Black Pride? Any other events or any particular incorporations of like cool things, not only just for DC Black Pride, but maybe even for Center for Black Equity over the next few years? Anything that like kind of hits your mind?
Yeah, I would love to get to a space where funding is no longer a question,
Mm,
right? Where we're no longer chasing down funds to continue doing the work for our community, but as some of the major organizations have endowments and donors and access to some of these funds, some of those funds are shared or we're at the very least included in conversations to advocate for the funds for our communities instead of the larger organizations saying they will advocate for us, bring us to the table so we can advocate for ourselves.
yeah,
My vision is for the Center for Black Heritage to continue, growing for another 26 years of fighting for space for us. My hope is that we won't have to be doing that in the past for the next 26 years, but history tells me that there's going to be a need for us in the next 26 years. And even if one thing changes, there's always going to be something else that we're going to have a need for. So, Center for Black Equity is going to always have a need. And I just hope and pray that, we're able to sustain this. We've sustained 26 years of a number of administrations. We're going to sustain another 26 years. Maybe not with me at the head of it for 26 more years, but, we'll be around.
yeah,
But also for DC Black Pride, for people to stop asking that question about do we still need Black Pride and understand the history that DC Black Pride has and what DC Black Pride has done as the catalyst for some of the many policies that many of us enjoy around this country that started from a Black Pride celebration.
Yes, yes, sir. And with that said, Kenya, if folks are not able to attend DC Black Pride this year, and still want to support, all of the efforts that you and your team are so working hard on, and like the space, not only DC Black Pride for Center for Black Equity, how can they be involved? And what ways can they support?
Yeah, if you want to support DC Black Pride directly, go to dcblackpride.org. There's a donate button. There's also a contact us button or get involved. I'm usually the one that responds to every single email that comes through, because I am that person that I sit down and I like read every email.
Yeah.
So reach out to me if you can donate. If you can donate resources, donate time, donate a skill, we need it more than ever. Donation does not necessarily have to be monetary; it can be in kind. We appreciate that, and the same goes with the Center for Black Equity, right? The Center for Black Equity, centerforbblackequity.org. If you visit our website and you want to support the greater work that we do for all the other prides, again, if you can donate financially, great. If not, if you have resources, if you have press release writing skills, if you have copyright writing skills, if you have legal experience, you can donate it not just to us, but to say, hey, you're in a town, you want to support that local Black Pride, but you don't know how, reach out to us and I'll connect you to that organization, whether it's in the States or overseas, right? I just got a message yesterday about someone trying to start a pride in Kenya, right? So this pride starting up all over the place. And if you want to help some of these spaces, we are happy to be the hub to make that connection and help navigate that space. Like I said, it doesn't have to be financial. It can be research. It can be manpower. If you have design skills, we'd love it. If website design skills, we would love to use it. I would definitely know people and spaces that can absolutely use any kind of support available.
Yes.
We have the talent. We have the talent. Let me just say that I know that we have a talent in our community. We have it.
Yeah. Definitely true. I love this. And yes, multiple ways to support, not only just from the DC Pride standpoint, but from a more global standpoint. I really love that. And I really appreciate the conversation that we had today, Kenya. It's really nice to hear all the great things that you are leading the charge on. Even for me, like hearing that I'm a Howard alum and hearing that Howard has a little bit of a hand in this.
Absolutely.
And
Wait
helping
till after Pride. It's gonna be something I'm announcing after Pride.
Say that one more time.
Wait till after Pride. I'm announcing something with Howard after Pride.
Oh, period. Okay, well, I'll definitely be on the lookout for that. But I really appreciate just the overall intentionality behind Pride this year, the safety aspect, the shuttles, and things like that. I feel like there are so many opportunities for people to make connections and to just learn more about how they can be involved with others in their community, not only from a healthcare standpoint, but maybe from a parenting standpoint, things like that. And so I really appreciate the time, and I am hoping that everything goes well next, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. How much more time we got?
Tomorrow. It feels like it's tomorrow. But it will go well. There's no other choice.
Period. It will.
As Black queer folks, we always find ways to show up and celebrate and experience joy, even in the face of adversity and tyranny. We've done it in the past. We will continue to do it. So let's just show up and do what we do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again. We appreciate you, Kenya, for sitting down with us and talking with us today. Just want to let everyone know Gaye Magazine is the official media partner for DC Black Pride. So we're excited to be on the ground chatting with everybody. Please come up and say hi to us if you see us at a few events. And stay tuned with all of the content that we're putting out on Instagram and on social media to see all of the great things that are happening in DC.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I'm so happy to have you all on board as the official media partner. You guys are going to be all over DC Black Pride this year. So, yeah.
It's going down. Thank you, Kenya.
All right. No problem. Take care.